Good morning and welcome back to today's session. We had already seen the protagonist of the story reached a minute before 12:30 at the fork of the creek. He felt certainly he would be able to be with the friends at 6 p.m. He unbuttoned both his jacket and shirt to take out the lunch. Though he tried to eat, the ice muscles prevented him from eating. In reality, he had forgotten to build a fire to warm him up. Open page number 41, second paragraph. Page number 41, paragraph number 2. He pulled the mitten on hurriedly and stood up. He was a bit frightened. He stamped up and down until the stinging returned into the feet. It certainly was cold, was his thought. That man from Sulphur Creek had spoken the truth when telling how cold it sometimes got in the country. And he had laughed at him at that time. That showed one must not be too sure of things. There was no mistake about it. It was cold. He strode up and down, stamping his feet and thrashing his arms until reassured by the returning warmth. Then he got out matches and proceeded to make a fire. From the undergrowth, where high water of the previous spring had lodged a supply of seasoned twigs, he got his firewood. Working carefully from a small beginning, he soon had a roaring fire over which he thawed the ice from his face and in the protection of which he ate his biscuits. For the moment, the cold of space was outwitted. The dog took satisfaction in the fire, stretching out close enough for warmth and far enough away to escape being singed. As the ice muscle did not allow him to eat his food, it prevented him from eating. He understood that it was a foolishness that he did not make the fire. So now he tries to make a fire. Let's see what happened. He pulled the mittens on hurriedly and stood up. He stood up, having removed the mittens from his hands, the gloves from his hands, and he was a bit frightened. All this while he was very confident, but now he is a bit frightened. He stamped up and down. Stamp means press very tightly. He started pressing his feet very tightly on the ground, both up and down, until the stinging returned into the feet, till the pain, a painful feeling has returned to his feet. He started stamping, he started pressing his feet towards the ground till the moment a kind of painful feeling has come to his feet. It certainly was cold. Was his thought. The thought in his mind was filled with that it certainly was nothing but it certainly was cold. That man from Sulphur Creek had spoken the truth when telling how cold it sometimes got in the country, and now he realizes that man from Sulphur Creek. Sulphur Creek actually is a tributary. See that it's written in capital letters, which very clearly indicate that it is a proper noun. So it's a tributary of Aliso Creek. Sulphur Creek is a tributary of Aliso Creek in the state of California in the United States. Once again, we are coming across Sulphur Creek. Sulphur Creek is a branch or the tributary of Aliso Creek in the state of California in USA. So now let us proceed. That man from the Sulphur Creek, a man from Sulphur Creek had spoken the truth when telling how cold it sometimes got in the country. The man had warned him. A man, we are not informed about who this person is. A man from the Sulphur Creek had informed him at times or sometimes it becomes extremely cold in this part of the country. And he had laughed at him at that time When the man from the Sulphur Creek informed him that at times, and there are occasions when it turns to be extremely cold, what did the protagonist do? He had laughed at him at that time, he made fun of the man. He just laughed at him. That showed one must not be too sure of things. We should not be overconfident about the things. There was no mistake about it. It was cold. Certainly, it was very, very cold. He strode up and down. He started striding. He started walking up and down, stamping his feet. Again and again, he started pressing his feet very tightly towards the ground till it started paining. Stamping his feet and thrashing his arms. He started beating his arms very strongly and soundly until reassured by the returning warmth, till the time he made it sure that a kind of warmth has returned to it. Almost all the part of his body has turned to be extremely numb. Therefore, he started stamping his feet. He started thrashing his arms till the moment he realized that, or he made sure that the warmth has returned to the parts of his body. Then he got out matches and proceeded to make fire. So now he took out the matchbox that he had with him and he started to make the fire. He started to proceed to make a fire. From the undergrowth means dense growth of the shrubs. From the shrubs, dense growth of the shrubs, undergrowth, where high water of the previous spring, high water over here means the high tide of the previous spring, had lodged a supply of seasoned twigs. So he was able to get a lot of seasoned twigs, small branches of the trees, which was deposited by the high water. He got his firewood from where he was able to collect the firewood for him. Working carefully from a small beginning, he soon had a roaring fire over which he thawed the ice from his face, and in the protection of which he ate his biscuit. Now let's see slowly, working very carefully from a small beginning. The fire in the beginning started burning very slowly from the small beginning. He soon had a roaring fire. He was able to make a roaring fire over which he thawed the ice, over which he melted. Thawed over here means he melted the ice from his face, and in the protection of which he ate his biscuit. And in the protection of the warmth, he was able to eat the biscuit. Biscuit was the thing that he carried for his lunch. He started eating the biscuit. For the moment, the cold of space was outwitted. The cold is totally beaten out since the fire started burning like a roaring fire. So that's why for the moment the cold of the space was outwitted. The cold is totally beaten out, and the dog took satisfaction in the fire. Dog was very, very happy with it. He took satisfaction in the fire, stretching out close enough for the warmth. It started stretching its body out very close enough for the warmth and far enough away to escape being singed. Singed over here means being burned. Though it came closer to the fire, at the same time the dog was very careful, therefore far enough away to escape being singed. It kept itself away so that it may not be getting burned. When the man had finished, he filled his pipe and took his comfortable time over a smoke. Then he pulled on his mittens, settled the ear flaps of his cap firmly about his ears, and took the creek trail up the left fork. The dog was disappointed and yearned back towards the fire. This man did not know cold. Possibly all the generations of his ancestry had been ignorant of cold, of real cold, of cold 107 degrees below freezing point. But the dog knew, all its ancestry knew, and it had inherited the knowledge. And it knew that it was not good to walk abroad in such fearful cold. It was the time to lie snug in a hole in the snow and wait for a curtain of cloud to be drawn across the face of outer space whence this cold came. On the other hand, there was no keen intimacy between the dog and the man. The one was the toil slave of the other, and the only carers it had ever received were the carers of the whiplash and of harsh and menacing throat sounds that threatened the whiplash. So the dog made no effort to communicate its apprehension to the man. It was not concerned in the welfare of the man. It was for its own sake that it yearned back towards the fire. But the man whistled and spoke to it with the sound of whiplashes, and the dog swung in the man's at the man's heels and followed after. When the man had finished, he filled his pipe and took his comfortable time over a smoke. Yes, when the man had finished, when he had completed his lunch, he filled his pipe. He thought of having a smoke and took his comfortable time over the smoke. He remained there at a comfortable time. So he had finished. Once he had finished his lunch, he thought of remaining for a few more minutes smoking nearby the fire in order to warm him up. Then he pulled on his mittens, and after that he started putting on his mittens, settled the ear flaps of his cap firmly about his ears. So he started keeping his cap and arranging the ear flaps very firmly about his ears, and took the creek trail up to the left fork, and he started moving towards the left fork. Remember, left fork is the place where his friends are waiting, and the dog was disappointed and yearned back towards the fire. The dog was so totally disappointed. The dog wanted to have the warmth of the fire again. So therefore the dog was disappointed and yearned. It longed for, it desired to remain over there again towards the fire. It yearned back towards the fire. It was totally disappointed the moment the dog saw the man is slowly getting up in order to proceed towards the left side of the fork in order to meet his friend. He decided to meet his friend before, or at least by 6 o'clock, and if he knew if he remains again idle in front of the fire, he may not be able to meet his friends at 6. So therefore he, after having completed smoking, he stood up, whereas the dog was totally disappointed and it longed to remain in the warmth of the fire. The man did not know cold. That is what the dog feels. The man did not know about the cold at all. Possibly, all the generation of his ancestry had been ignorant of cold. All his ancestors, the dog feels that all the ancestors of this man must be ignorant about such kind of extreme cold weather. Of real cold, of cold 107 degrees below freezing point. The cold is almost, the dog feels that it is 107 degrees below freezing point, and the man is ignorant about it. And the dog further feels that not only this man, all the ancestors of his man is ignorant about such kind of extreme cold weather. But the dog knew, all its ancestry knew, and it had inherited the knowledge, but the dog was quite aware about. The dog is a husky. It knows the situations, it knows the weather, and that is what the writer says. The dog knew, and all its ancestry knew, and all the ancestors of the dog knew the dangers related to such kind of extreme cold temperature. And it had inherited the knowledge. It had already inherited the knowledge of the danger of walking when the temperature is such low. And it knew that it was not good to walk abroad in such a fearful cold. What's the meaning of to walk abroad? Walk abroad means to walk far and wide, at a different direction, move around at a different direction. That is what the meaning of to walk abroad. And the dog knew that it was not good to walk abroad. The dog was very well aware that it is not sound, it is not safe to walk far and wide in such a fearful cold, such kind of extreme cold weather. It is not fair that a person walk around. That is what the dog was well aware of it. It was the time to lie snug in a hole in the snow. The dog felt that it was the time to lie snug. Snug over here means very, very comfortably. The dog feels that it is the time for us to remain very, very comfortably. It was the time to lie snug in a hole in the snow. maybe inside the igloo, make the hole inside the snow and wait for the curtain of cloud to be drawn across in the face of the outer space whence this cold came, and wait for the cloud to appear over there in the sky so that the extreme cold weather, the temperature may be almost all right. Till that time the dog feels that we have to remain inside the hole, inside the ice, hole being made inside the ice. That is what is supposed to be done. That is what the dog feels at the present moment, because the temperature is such extreme. On the other hand, there was no keen intimacy between the dog and the man. In reality, there was no intimacy between the dog as well as the man at all. One was the toil slave of the other. One was the slave, one was a helper for the other, the toil slave of the other. But there was no true love between the dog as well as his master. Both depended on each other, that's all. They did not have any intimacy at all. Therefore, the writer says, on the other hand, there was no keen intimacy between the dog and the man. The one was the toil slave of the other, and the only caresses it had, caresses means the only affection it had ever received were the caresses of the whiplash and the harsh and menacing throat sound that threatened the whiplash. The only thing, the only love the dog had towards the man was the threatening sound that was produced by the man when he used to beat the animal with the whip. The whip lashes as well as the threatening, menacing sound that the man produced the moment the man started beating the dog. So that was its love towards the man, which means the dog did not have any affection towards the man at all. Instead, it had a kind of hatred feeling towards the man. It did not like the man at all, because the only relationship, the only love that the dog had towards the man, the writer says that when he used to produce such kind of threatening sound, when he used to beat the animal. So that cannot be a love at all. So in reality, the dog did not have any affection towards the man at all. So, the dog made no effort to communicate its apprehension to the man. Since the dog did not have any affection towards the man at all, it did not try to communicate. The dogs may be able to communicate to human beings in different manners, in different ways. Here the dog did not try to communicate its apprehension. Apprehensions over here means the opinion that the dog had to the man. The dog did not try at all. The dog could have made the man to remain over there, but the dog did not try it at all, because there was no affection between the dog as well as the man. It was not concerned in the welfare of the man. It was for its own sake that it yearned back towards the fire. It had no concern towards the man at all. It did not bother about the danger that the man is going to face. But it longed, it wanted to remain over there at the, it wanted the sake that it yearned back towards the fire. It wanted to be, it longed back towards the fire where it can make its body warm enough. But the man whistled and spoke to it with a sound of whiplashes, and the dog swung in at the man's heels and followed the man after. Though the dog did not want to move, it longed to remain over there at the warmth of the fire, but the man whistled. Whistling is a signal that the man gives to the dog to proceed further. But the man whistled and spoke to it with the sound of whiplashes, and the dog swung over here means the dog started moving in at the man's heels and followed after. So it started proceeding, it started following the man. Though the dog wants to, it longed to remain at the warmth of the fire, but the man whistled, the man signaled, and the dog started moving together with the man. The man took a chew of tobacco and proceeded to start a new amber beard. Also, his moist breath quickly powdered with white his moustache, eyebrows, and lashes. There did not seem to be so many springs on the left fork of the Henderson, and for half an hour the man saw no signs of any. And then it happened. at a place where there were no signs, where the soft, unbroken snow seemed to advertise solidity beneath, the man broke through. It was not deep. He went himself halfway to the knees before he floundered out to the firm crust. The man took a chew of tobacco and proceeded to start the new amber beard. The man took out his tobacco and he started chewing his tobacco, and we know that as a consequence, the beard turned to be amber in color. That we have already seen previously. The man once again started chewing his tobacco, a chew of tobacco, and proceeded to start a new amber beard. Also, his moist breath, the breath that came out in the form of the moist breath quickly powdered with white his mustache. Now, because of when he was breathing out, the moisture turned to be whitish in color on his mustache, on his eyebrows, as well as his eyelashes. There did not seem to be so many springs on the left fork of the Henderson, and for half an hour the man saw no signs of any. There did not seem to be so many springs. We already know the last day, the small springs, the streams, where the water remains in the liquid form, whereas on the top part it remains as a solid ice crystal. And such are the springs that originate from the hillsides, and they bubbles down, and that is the way they pass through. And now the writer says that such kind of streams are not there in the left side. He is now moving towards the left side, and the writer says that such kind of dangerous streams are not there in the left side at all. There did not seem to be so many springs on the left fork of the Henderson, and for half an hour the man saw no signs of any. Almost he walked for half an hour and he could not find the such kind of threatening streams or the springs at all. There was no sign of any spring at all. And then it happened. Half an hour he moved very, very comfortably. Then it happened at a place where there were no signs, where the soft, unbroken snow seemed to advertise solidity beneath. The man broke through. And then it happened at a place where there were no signs of such kind of springs at all, no sign of such kind of dangerous spring at all. At a place where there were no signs, where the soft unbroken snow, the snow appeared to be, apparently it was soft unbroken snow, seemed to advertise solidity beneath. Solidity beneath over here means it appeared to be solid even beneath, even underneath. And the man broke through. But unfortunately, the man broke through. The man went down. It appears to be as if it is the snow seems to be very, very solid. But what happened? The man broke through. The man has gone down. The man went down. It was not deep, though it was not very deep at all. He wet himself halfway to the knees. Though it was not very deep, but at the same time he was wet halfway through his knees before he floundered, before he was able to balance himself. Floundered over here means the man was able to balance himself out to a firm crust. Before he was able to balance himself on a firm crust, he almost got wet up to his knees. Up to halfway of the knees, the man was totally wet now. He was angry and cursed his luck aloud. He had hoped to get into the camp with the boys at 6 o'clock, and this would delay him an hour, for he would have to build a fire and dry out his food here. This was imperative at that low temperature. He knew that much, and he turned aside to the bank, which he climbed. On top, tangled in the underbush about the trunks of several small spruce trees, was a high water deposit of dry firewood, sticks and twigs principally, but also larger portions of seasoned branches and fine dry last year's grasses. He threw down several large pieces on top of the snow. This served for the foundation and prevented the young flame from drowning itself in the snow. It otherwise would melt. The flame he got by touching a match to a small shred of birch bark that he took out from his pocket. This burned even more readily than the paper. Placing it on the foundation, he fed the young flame with the whips of dry grass and with the tiniest dry twigs. He was angry and cursed his good luck. He was lucky enough all this while. Till this moment, he was lucky enough, but now what happened? He got wet in the water. At least half of his knees, up to half of his knees, his body is wet, and with that wet body, he cannot proceed any further at all. So therefore, he cursed himself and cursed his bad luck. He had hoped to get into the camp with the boys at 6 o'clock, and this would delay him an hour. He felt that he would be able to reach the camp by 6 o'clock. Now that is not going to take place at all. At least it will delay for an hour, and this would delay him an hour, for he would have to build a fire and dry out his foot gear. Foot gear over here means footwear. The shoes that he wears, that is totally wet. With that wet shoes as well as the wet socks, he will not be able to walk at all. So therefore, he has to build a fire, dry his foot gear. Till that, he cannot start at all. He cannot proceed at all. It will take at least an hour. And therefore, he started cursing the luck around him. And this would delay him an hour, for he would have to build a fire and dry out his foot gear. This was imperative. This is very, very essential at that low temperature. Under such kind of low temperature, it is imperative, it is essential. He knew that much. He was well aware of that. And he turned aside. Therefore, he turned aside. He moved away to the bank which he climbed. The bank of the river where he has already climbed. To that side, he once again moved back. On top, tangled in the underbush. So in the underbush, he has seen so many shrubs were tangled about the trunks of several small spruce trees. He could see the branches of the spruce trees was a high water deposit. It was deposited by the high water. High water means the high tide of dry firewood. There were dry firewood in it. Sticks and twigs, principally it was mainly with small twigs, small sticks, and that is what he was eagerly wanting to have. But also larger portions of seasoned branches and fine dry last year's grasses, as well as whatever was needed for him. Large portions of wood also he got. He found small pieces of the wood that are dried enough, as well as he was able to see larger portions of seasoned branches and fine dry last year's grasses, as well as he got the dry grasses. And he threw down several large pieces on top of the snow. Now he is making a foundation. He took out the large pieces and he placed the large pieces of these logs on the snow, several large pieces on top of the snow. This served for the foundation and prevented the young flame from drowning itself in the snow. It otherwise would melt. Suppose if the flame is kept on the top of the snow as well as the ice, slowly the ice will be melted and the flame will be totally extinguished. So therefore he wanted the need to make a foundation, and he made a foundation with large pieces of firewood. The flame he got by touching a match to a small shred means small piece of birch bark that he took from his pocket. He wanted to make the fire. So he took out a small piece of a birch branch, a small branch of a birch tree which he had already carried in his pocket. The flame he got by touching a match to a small shred or small piece of birch bark that he took out from his pocket. This burned even more rapidly than the paper, and this birch bark burned rapidly than that of the newspaper. And placing it on the foundation, we already know he made the foundation by large piece of wood. He placed it on the top of the ice as well as the snow. So he placing it on the foundation, he fed the young flame with a wisp of dry grass, with the straws, small pieces of dry grass, with the tiniest dry twigs. Then slowly he added the tiniest dry twigs so that the fire may burn better way. He worked slowly and carefully, keenly aware of his danger. Gradually, as the flame grew stronger, he increased the size of the twigs with which he fed it. He squatted in the snow, pulling the twigs out from their entanglement in the brush and feeding directly to the flame. He knew there must be no failure. When it is 75 below zero, a man must not fail in his attempt to build a fire, that is, if his feet are wet. If his feet are dry and he fails, he can run along the trail for half a mile and restore his circulation. But the circulation of wet and freezing feet cannot be restored by running when it is 75 below. No matter how fast he runs, the wet feet will freeze the harder. He worked slowly and carefully, keenly aware of the danger. He was very well aware about the danger. So therefore, he worked slowly. At the same time, he was very careful, keenly aware of his danger. Gradually, as the flame grew stronger, the small flame that started burning brighter. As the flame grew stronger, he increased the size of the twigs which he fed it. Earlier, the tiniest dry twigs he was placing into the fire. Now the fire started burning brightly. So therefore, he increased the size of the twigs with which he fed it. He squatted in the snow, pulling the twigs out from their entanglement. They were in a complete entanglement, intermingled with each other. He started removing them from the small pieces from their entanglement, pulling the twigs out from their entanglement in the brush and feeding directly to the flame. And he started feeding the twigs. Now we already know that as the flame grew stronger, he increased the size of the twigs. He removed the small as well as the medium twigs from the entanglement and he started directly feeding them to the flame. He knew there must be no failure. He knew that his attempt should not be a failure at all. When it is 75 below zero, a man must not fail in his first attempt to build a fire, that is, if his feet are wet. When the temperature is below 75 degree and if his feet are wet, in that case, he cannot expect to have a failure at all. And if he is a failure in his first attempt to make the fire, that will be the end of his life. That the man was well aware. Two conditions what he says are, if the temperature is below 75 degree as well as the feet are wet. Now both these are the situation in front of the protagonist here. The temperature is below 75 degree as well as both his feet are totally wet. And under such kind of situation, if a failure occurs, it is going to be a great danger for him, that he knew very well. If his feet are dry and he fails, he can run along the trail for half a mile and restore his circulation. Suppose the temperature is below 75 and his feet are totally dry. Even if he fails for the first attempt, it is not going to be a great danger at all. That is what the writer says here. If his feet are dry and he fails, he can run along the trail for half a mile. He may make use of running. He may run for a mile and restore his circulation so that the blood circulation can be restored, provided his feet are dry and even if the temperature is below 75 degree. But the circulation of wet and freezing feet cannot be restored by running when it is 75 below. When the temperature is 75 below and the feet are wet, in that case, restoration of the circulation is not possible even if the man runs for more than a mile. And no matter how fast he runs, the wet feet will freeze the hard. However he runs, no matter how fast the man runs, the wet feet will freeze harder. The feet will be freezing harder and harder. So running is not going to help the man at all if the temperature is below 75 and if his feet are wet. Now the situation with related to the protagonist over here is temperature is below 75 and his feet are wet, so therefore he cannot take a risk at all. By the first attempt itself, the fire has to be properly made, otherwise it is a great risk and danger for his life. Thank you, students. Let's continue the rest in the next class.